Warriors NRL Fanatics here, back today with a video, and I'm going to give my 2021 NRL Ladder Predictions. Now before doing so, just to let you guys all know that this is just my opinion, and if you don't agree with my opinion, you can share your NRL Ladder Predictions in the comments below. So let's get into it. So starting off in 16th spot in the wooden spoon position, I've gone with the Cronulla Sharks. Now, the reason why I've gone with the Cronulla Sharks in 16th spot on the ladder is because I haven't really been impressed in their off-season recruitment. And, you know, they'll be without Shaun Johnson for the first couple of rounds of the season. And you just don't know what Cronulla will produce because, you know, they last year, they only just made the finals last year. I think they were a bit fortunate to be there, to be honest. I know people might disagree with me on that one, but I just don't. I just look at their squad this year, and you know, what will Matt Moylan do this year? He's been injured. He's always injured. He's always got the potential to be quite a good player, but you know, Matt Moylan, he's been injured quite a bit over the years, and I just don't know what he's going to produce. And, you know, they've got some good talented players in that squad, the Sharks. They definitely do. But I just don't see anything that could impress me to be a finals team, the Cronulla Sharks, you know. I don't see what they're going to produce this year with the squad they currently have. So, you know, the Cronulla Sharks, you know, they can be a team that can be quite annoying, you know. They're a team that always push inside that top 8 every year. They seem to be always in there, and you know, they could do that again, but I just see them going quite backwards this year. You know, I see them going real backwards this season, and I just don't see them doing much, to be honest. I've got them around about 16th. It might be a big call for a lot of people to hear that, but I just don't see them doing much damage. The next team I've got in 15th spot on my 2021 NRL ladder prediction is the West Tigers. And this is another team that I have not been impressed with, you know. I haven't been impressed with them for a few years now. And this West Tigers team, they've made some strange calls in terms of their recruitment. Now, Michael Maguire, I reckon he's under massive pressure this year. You know, the West Tigers, they expected to be doing much better than they're doing. They haven't really got the squad to do it, and you know, they've let go some great players over the years, and the West Tigers, they've just been quite disappointing, and they've been very disappointing, to be honest. And you know, the signings they've made in the off season, James Roberts and James Tamou. Now, James Tamou, in my opinion, I just don't really rate. I know there'll be people here going, "What? You don't rate James Tamou? He's a good player." But you know, I don't rate him, to be honest. I just don't rate James Tamou. James Roberts. Now, James Roberts has had his issues on the off-field dramas he's had. You know, he's been sitting out quite a lot of games last year due to the off-field issues. And you know, James Roberts, he's really a good player, but you know, he can be a bit rocks and diamonds, James Roberts. You know, he's quite fast, he's quite strong, but James Roberts, you know, he can be one of those players that just he's a bit rocks and diamonds in my opinion. So, you know, those two signings, James Tamou and James Roberts, they don't tell me that, oh, this is going to be a great year for the West Tigers. But you know, I could be wrong. I could be proven very wrong. You know, you look at their halves. You know, that's a bit questionable. The positions they've got are quite questionable. Fullback as well. You know, Adam Dewey, he's a decent player. He's not a great player, but he's pretty decent. You know, Luke Brooks, you know, he hasn't done anything since that year he debuted for the West Tigers, you know, back in a couple of years ago. So the West Tigers, they don't really stand out to me, and I could have had them in my wooden spoon position, but I've just got them missing out on the wooden spoon. So I reckon they'll finish around about 15th. The next team is in 14th. I've gone with the Dragons. Now, what an off season the Dragons have had. You know, new coach Anthony Griffin comes in, and then there's a lot of changes already. You know, them not keeping Cameron McInnes, that's a big blow for the Dragons. You know, next year, I know that's next year, but still, it's a big blow, and I think he's one of the captains too of the Dragons. So currently, but is that going to be a distraction? How much motivation is McInnes going to have in his last year with the Dragons before he heads off to the Sharks? I just don't know. It could be a distraction for the Dragons, whether he's going to be fully focused on playing for the Dragons and giving his all, or he's just going to, you know, lose focus. So that signing of Cameron McInnes, who's been a great player for them for a few years. He's been one of their best players. So, yeah, Cameron McInnes, a big blow for the Dragons next year. And this year, I just look at the squad. It's still not the greatest of squads, to be honest. And, yeah, I think this is going to be a tough start for Anthony Griffin in his first year back in the NRL as a coach in a long time. And I don't think the Dragons will get the spoon. I think they'll avoid that probably, but you know, I just see this being a bit of a tough start for Anthony Griffin in this first year as a Dragons coach. The next team I've gone with in 13th spot on my 2021 NRL Ladder Predictions, and this might surprise a lot of people, and I wasn't so sure where to put them. You know, I could have had them in my top 4, I could have had them in my top 8, but I've made a big call here, and Newcastle Knights fans probably won't be happy with this prediction, and I don't blame them. But you know, you look at last year, Newcastle, they were a little bit inconsistent for my liking. They had a good year. They still made the finals, but they were a little bit inconsistent. They could beat teams on their day. They could lose to the teams that they weren't expected to lose to. You know, the Newcastle Knights, to me, they just, yeah, they have a great squad. Don't get me wrong, they have a great team, but you know, there's times where Newcastle can be like that. They could be a little bit inconsistent. So, you know, I've made a big call here. I think they'll miss out on the top 8 this year. I've got them around about 13th. It might be very low for a team like Newcastle for me to be picking them that low, but you know, I just don't see any improvement. I just don't see any improvement from Newcastle. You know, they could still be challenging for the top 6. Don't get me wrong; they could prove me wrong, but yeah, I've got them around about 13th. The next team in 12th position on the ladder, I've gone with the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. Now, the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs, wow, over the years they have really struggled, the Canterbury Bankstown Bulldogs. You know, they haven't made the finals quite a bit now, so they've had their struggles with results on the field, a bit of issues too off the field as well, the Bulldogs. So I think mainly it's down to salary cap. The Bulldogs haven't been able to spend and go after many players in the off seasons. So the Bulldogs this year, you know, their recruitment has been much better. Their recruiting has been great, and their recruitment's great for next year as well. So you got new coach Trent Barrett come in there. Trent Barrett's back into the head coaching role in the NRL for first time in a while since he was at Manly. And you know, Trent Barrett, he did a good job last year as an attacking coach for the Penrith Panthers. So this will be interesting to see how Trent Barrett goes coaching the Bulldogs and back coaching in the NRL as a head coach. So, you know, you look at the off-field signings they've made. They've signed Nick Kotrick. They've signed Adokar for the 2022 NRL season. So the Bulldogs have a bright future here. They definitely have potential to improve and do much better. But there are some positions you could say the Bulldogs, there's still some question marks over. Possibly hooker. You know, Fullback maybe, but they've got some decent forwards there, the Bulldogs. So will they make the top 8 this year? In my opinion, I don't think they will. I think they'll finish 12th. I think they'll be the most improved team this year. Believe it or not, I reckon they'll be the most improved, but I don't see them making the 8. And I think they'll finish around about 12. Now, in 11th spot on the NRL ladder, in my predictions. Now, I know a lot of people have hyped them up, and the 2 big signs they've made, I can understand a little bit of the hype, but I believe they're way too overhyped, in my opinion. They're just too overhyped, and that is the Gold Coast Titans. Now, I know people are going to probably laugh at this prediction. How can you have them that low when you look at the signings they've made, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, I look at this squad and, you know, there's some positions you could say still very questionable. The fullback position, AJ Brimson's a good player. Can he stay on the pitch long enough? I don't know. He's had some injuries over the years. You know, the outside backs, they aren't great in my opinion. They ain't great. Hooking position, that's a bit of a problem. The halves, you know, Ash Taylor, he's on $1 million a season. You know, he hasn't really delivered at all since leaving Brisbane. And he needs to step up, Ash Taylor, because he needs to show his potential as a young player. So, Ash Taylor, you know, I know he's had some problems off the field as well, but, you know, Ash Taylor, he needs to step up and deliver and show his potential. And you've got the likes of Jamal Fogarty, who's, in my opinion, I rate him quite highly, Jamal Fogarty. I know a lot of people might say that he hasn't played too much NRL, but I rate Jamal Fogarty quite highly. I know last year was only his first year in the NRL. He played a chunk of games in the NRL last year, Jamal Fogarty. Now, he's a player that I rate really well because I've watched him in the Queensland Cup for the Burleigh Bears, and I know the Queensland Cup is a different competition, but he's always had some solid games there. And I follow the Burleigh Bears, they're one of my teams in the Queensland Cup. So, Jamal Fogarty's definitely got potential to be a good player, and I know the NRL is a different level and you have to consistently perform each week, but, you know, there is always a question mark in that position, regardless of Jamal Fogarty's talent. And, yeah, the Gold Coast Titans for me, looking at Tino Farmasili and David Fafita, he's one of the great talents coming through rugby league. Tino Farmasili had a good year last year. He's a good signing. I think this might be a big call here, but I think Tino will have a better season than David Fafita. I think Tino will be the much better player. This might be a big call, but I just think Tino will be the much better player. So, yeah, I've gone and picked the Gold Coast Titans in 11th. A massive call, I know. I know a lot of people have got them in the top 8, but I just don't believe in the hype. The next position I've gone with in the ladder positions, in 10th spot, I've gone with the North Queensland Cowboys. Now, I really wasn't so sure where to put the Cowboys. I could have had them in the 8 too. I was very close to picking them in the 8, but I came to the conclusion to picking them in 10th spot. Now, Todd Payten's coming in as the new coach this year, and the Cowboys, they've got the potential to do quite well. They've had a very tough couple of years. They haven't done quite well since that 2015 grand final success, and in that 2017 they made the grand final. So the Cowboys have had some lean years, and Paul Green is now gone, and they've got a new different approach there. And Todd Payten, last year, you know, when he came in for the sack Stephen Kearney mid-season as a coach for the Warriors really turned it around. They really produced some great performances each week. And, yeah, I rate Todd Payten quite highly. I have huge respect for what Todd Payten has done with us. And, you know, I wish him all the best. I really do wish him all the best. I like to see the Cowboys go well this year. But, you know, I just don't see them making the top 8. They could potentially get in there, but I think they'll just miss out. And I've got them in 10th spot. The next team I've gone with in 9th spot, I've gone with the Brisbane Broncos. Again, this might be another surprise for a lot of people because you look at last year, Brisbane were absolutely diabolical last year. They finished with the wooden spoon. But you also got to look at the positives because the start of the season last year, they were 2 wins and 0 losses. You know, they started the season off quite well. And then you look at the COVID suspension of the competition. You know, they didn't really recover from that. They didn't recover from that suspension of the competition. So, you know, Brisbane, they're a big club. They're one of the biggest clubs in the NRL, and they're expected to do much better than they have. So, I know they had a disappointing year last year, but you know, I'm not going to write them off to challenge for the top 8 this year. It might be a strange thing to say because it's a new coaching staff and all that, but I'm not going to write them off. You look at the talent they've got. They've got some great talent in there. Herbie Farnworth, you got Jermaine Asako, you've got some good players in there. Anthony Milford, well, he needs to really step up because he hasn't done anything in a while, Anthony Milford. He needs to step up and show good performances. But, you know, Brisbane Broncos, you've got one of the mans of Brisbane Broncos, the real Brisbane man, that is Kevin Walters. And, you know, he will bring a lot to the Brisbane Broncos. He will try and change that culture around to being a top team again. And, you know, there's no reason why Brisbane can't be back to the top where they were, like they were challenging for finals and all that. So, although I have said a lot in terms of the Brisbane Broncos, and I'm giving them quite a huge chance, I still don't think they'll make the top 8. I just think they'll miss out. I think I'll finish around about 9th on the ladder, and yeah, I just think they'll just miss out. So I've got them in 9th. The next position on the ladder is 8th spot, and I've gone with the Manly Seagulls. Now, looking back at last year, I think I had Manly in my top 8 as well. I think I did. So, and they missed out. They missed out on the top 8 yet again. And you know, they weren't great last year. Manly, they had some good games. They had some bad games. But they also had some injuries, and none other than an injury to Tommy Trbojevic. Now, Tommy Trbojevic, you know, he really needs to stay fit, healthy, and on the field because he's one of Manly's key players to doing quite well. So, I know Manly have made some great recruitment in the off-season in terms of welcoming back Kieran Foran. Now, that is a big signing for Manly. That's going to be real big. You know, Cherry Evans and Foran in the halves. That's going to really give Manly a lot of spark, you know. Cherry Evans had a good year last year. I know a lot of people were hypercritical of Cherry Evans. I don't know why. He cops a lot of hate, and he's a good player, Cherry Evans. And, you know, in the Origin last year, Cherry Evans, he was part of that winning Origin series. So, you know, having Foran back there is going to help Cherry Evans quite massively. They've lost some players. They've lost Fanua Blake. That's a big loss. They've still got a good team, Manly. I reckon that they just have that. They have the likes of Jake Trbojevic, Martin Tapau. You know that's a very good team still, and I can still see them doing much better. I reckon they'll do much better this year. And the key for Manly is they cannot get injuries to some of their key players now. If they get injuries to some of their key players like Tommy Trbojevic and the likes of Jake Trbojevic and some of those players, Manly won't make the 8. But if they stay healthy, fit, most of their players, they will definitely be a finals team. So for me, I've gone with Manly in 8th spot to make it. So they'll just make it in there. And yeah, best of luck to Manly this year. The next team I've gone with in the 8th and 7th spot, I've gone with the Penrith Panthers. Now, you look at last year, the Penrith Panthers and what they've done. You know, they won all those games in a row. They made the grand final, and they only they only just missed out and on winning that premiership, and they really exceeded expectation. I didn't expect them to win all those games in a row and wrap up the minor premiership and all that. I didn't expect them to go that well, but they did quite well. Nathan Cleary had a good year last year. He was one of the main players. Episode Coruscant as well. What a year he had. He was awesome last year. Episode Coruscant. Great hooker episode, and then you got the likes of the underrated player like Dylan Edwards, who really surprised me as well. I don't really rate Dylan Edwards. He's a good player, but he did quite well last year. Then Josh Mansell as well. He's gone, and likes of James Fisher-Harris had a good year. So this year can Penrith go one better this year? I personally, I don't have them in my grand final this year. I don't have them in the top 4. I have them in 7th spot, and I think they'll go down a few places. All the other teams will step up and be better. So yeah, I got Penrith in 7th spot on the ladder. So yeah, you never know what Penrith are going to do. They people like myself and a lot of people didn't expect Penrith to go that well. So you just never know. But I've got them in 7th. The next team in my top 8 in 6th spot. Now, I'm going to be extremely biased here, and it's my team, so I'm going to have to, and I've got them in 6th spot, and that is the New Zealand Warriors. Now, the main reason I've got the Warriors this high in the 8, well, you just look at the squad we've got on paper. Fanua Blake, Ewan Aiken, Kane Evans, Solomon Toa, Sean O'Sullivan, Ben Murdoch, Masilla, Bailey Seranen. You got those players that were bought in the off-season. You've got a new coach, Nathan Brown, which, I don't know what's going to happen. You got to see what happens. But Nathan Brown, I've heard some good things there. And, it's a new start for the Warriors this year. It's a new start. There's some players still there from last year. There's some new recruits for this year. There's some good young talent coming through as well who have been training with us in the off-season. And, for me, I know a lot of Warriors fans, myself and everyone, we always get overexcited about our team and we always get let down. But I don't think this year we're going to be let down. I reckon this year I've got massive confidence we can produce some good results and be a finals contention team. Now, last year was last year. We had that tough time in Australia where we were away from our families, but this year there's no excuses. I know we're still in Australia again and we're not at Mount Smart for a bit, but there's no excuses this year. We have been better prepared in the off season as we ever been for this year, and yeah, I just see us making the top 8 this year, and hopefully this does happen and we do make the finals. So yeah, I've got us finishing in 6th spot. The next team is in 5th spot, and I'm going with the Parramatta Eels. Now, there was a lot of question marks for me on who to put in 5th spot. Now, I was going to pick Newcastle, I was going to pick Parramatta, but I went with Parramatta. Now, they last year they made the top 4, so they were one position higher than what I would have predicted them last year. So this year I've got them in 5th spot. Main reason is I don't think they'll finish in 4th. The main reason is because I don't think they'll be that consistent. But the key players for them, the likes of Mitchell Moses, he needs to step up. He is one of their key playmakers. I know he hasn't been delivering over the last couple of years, and in that finals game last year, Mitchell Moses had that kick in front and he missed it, and it was an easy kick and he missed it, and it was very, very shocking. It was very, very disappointing because, Parramatta, I think, at that stage of the game, they were still in the game, so he missed that kick. It was a pretty vital missed kick in the end. So Mitchell Moses, he needs to step up. I rate Mitchell Moses. He's a good player. I rate him quite highly, but he needs to step up and show that he's one of those players that can lead his team around the park. So yeah, then you got the likes of Dylan Brown, and I rate Dylan Brown really highly. You know, the next couple of years he's going to be one of the future Kiwi players. So yeah, Dylan Brown, and what a talent he is. He had a great year last year. Then Clinton Gufferson, who had an awesome year as well at fullback, and this year I think their team hasn't changed too much. So yeah, I'm gonna say that I see Parramatta going quite well again this year. Whether they make the top 4, probably not, but I've got them in 5th. The next team is in 4th spot. I've gone with the Canberra Raiders. Now, last year the Canberra Raiders, they had a lot of injuries. So they had a lot of injuries at the start of the year. They lost Josh Hodgson. You know, they lost a lot of players, and you know, myself included, and maybe some other people probably had them not making the 8, probably saying they might not make the 8 because they lost a lot of players. But you know, they really proved a lot of people wrong. They made the finals again. They just lost. You know, they just lost in the finals, and Melbourne were 2 good on the day on the scoreboard, but they did quite well to get that far. So yeah, I see the Canberra Raiders being a top 4 team this year. If they stay fully fit, most of their key players, they'll do quite well. You know, they're a hard team to beat in Canberra at their own stadium, and they'll probably win some games away. So I got the Canberra Raiders finishing 4th, and I reckon this might be a big call here, but I reckon that they need to, you know, they need to win the premiership this year. I reckon this is their premiership window closing. There's not many. I don't think there'll be many opportunities after this year. So Canberra, if they want to win the premiership this year, they've got to win it this year. So I reckon they'll be in 4th spot. The next team in 3rd spot, I've gone with the South Sydney Rabbitohs. Now the Rabbitohs, you look at their off-season signings, very impressive off-field signings, and they've got a great squad built there. Wayne Bennett's built a great squad there, and this is Wayne Bennett's last year as a coach at the Rabbitohs, so he will want to go out on a high. You know, he will want to go out and want to go out on a high note for the Rabbitohs, and he'll want to help them win another premiership. So they've got the players to do so. The Rabbitohs, I know how close they've come over the years, the Rabbitohs, to winning another premiership. You know, they've exited the finals and the preliminary finals for a couple of years in a row, and you know they've been very, very close. The Rabbits, they have had that squad to do it, and they've just been very, very unfortunate to miss out. So there's no reason why the Rabbitohs can be premiership contenders this year, and I reckon they'll definitely give it a crack, the Rabbitohs. But you know, I reckon they'll finish around 3rd spot on the NRL ladder, and yeah, I reckon they'll do quite well. In 2nd spot on the ladder, I've gone with the Sydney Roosters. You know, there's not much to say here, really. The Sydney Roosters, you look at last year, I don't think the the Roosters weren't at their best. I don't think they weren't at their best last year. They came into the year as back-to-back NRL premiers. I think they went a little bit backwards last year. I know they were still in the finals, but you know, when they went into that finals game, I just didn't feel like they were showing good potential there, good form. So I reckon, you know, Trent Robinson, the Roosters, they always have high expectations, and you know, there's no doubt the Roosters will bounce back this year. They'll be very much up there and in contention again, and you know, can expect a huge bounce back from them. And yeah, I reckon they'll finish around about 2nd spot on the ladder. And yeah, they should do too well, because you know, you look at their squad, they've still got James Tedesco, they've still got all those great players. So the Roosters, there's no reason why they will not be up there. The last team in 1st spot on my ladder predictions, and that is none other than the Melbourne Storm. And yes, I know that sounds a bit boring to predict Melbourne at the top, But, you know, Melbourne, every year they keep delivering. Every year when they've had players, you know, even when they don't make many signings. I mean, this year they probably haven't made many signings again, but, you know, they just keep delivering, Melbourne. You know, Craig Bellamy's one of the best coaches in the NRL I've ever seen, you know. And they always produce something, Melbourne, every season. When you write them off, they're always up there. They always get these young, unknown players and turn them into superstars. And you look at the likes of Ryan Papenhuyzen, what a season he had last year. You know, Clive Churchill medal in the NRL Grand Final. Man, absolutely awesome, Ryan Papenhuyzen. You know, I'm starting to rate him very, very highly now, Ryan Papenhuyzen. I know he's only young, but, you know, I didn't know too much about him at the start, but he's one of those excellent players that I've ever seen. So, yeah, Melbourne, they haven't lost too many players. You know, they're gonna lose Cameron Smith. I know that's gonna be a big blow, but for me, Melbourne, you never write them off. You never write them off. And for me, you know, unfortunately, I hate to say it, but I reckon they'll finish as the minor premiers. So, yeah, that is my 2021 NRL ladder predictions. And apologies, this video has gone for over 30 minutes now. So, yeah, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below. That'll be much appreciated. Yeah, we're at 230 subscribers at the moment, so doing okay, and getting close to that goal of 250 subscribers, which I'm aiming to get by the end of this month in February. And yeah, please don't forget to also hit that like button down below as well. That would be much appreciated. And yeah, share your thoughts in the comments, your 2021 NRL ladder predictions. And I'll see you guys in the next one.